video, you will learn how to write a clearly defined question to evaluate the impact of your change in practice. You will learn why this is important, some tips to help you write a good evaluation question, and some pitfalls to avoid. Having a well-defined question is vital in planning and carrying out a coherent evaluation. The question should include the change in practice that will be evaluated, a specified time frame, the outcomes you want to measure, and the people who will experience the new practice. Here is a helpful structure for your evaluation question. What impact does a practice, delivered over a time frame, have on an intended outcome for a specific group of students? Each element of the question should be clearly defined. For example, what impact does a review of the previous lesson, delivered for 5 minutes at the beginning of every lesson for 4 months, have on knowledge recall for students in my class? Writing a good evaluation question is harder than it sounds. There are several common pitfalls in writing evaluation questions, all of which can be resolved with time and thought. Issue 1. The outcome is poorly defined. Let's look at a question which has a poorly defined outcome. What impact does a series of career presentations from people who work in STEM for 1 academic year have on the aspirations of Year 11 students? In this question, aspirations is not a well-defined outcome. Keep asking yourself, what do I mean by the outcome? Until you can't provide any more detail. For example, if we think about aspirations, what do I mean by aspiration? Well, actually, I was thinking about what students want to do after GCSEs. What do I mean by what do students want to do after GCSEs? Do I actually mean, do students want to do something related to STEM? What do I mean by, do students want to do something related to STEM? Well, do I actually mean, do they want to do a STEM-related course or apprenticeship? But do I really mean whether they want to do a STEM-related course or apprenticeship? Do I actually want to know, do they go on to start a STEM-related course or apprenticeship? Now the outcome is clearly defined. What impact does a monthly career presentation from people who work in STEM for 1 academic year have on the percentage of Year 11 students who start a STEM course or apprenticeship? Issue 2. The question is too broad to be answerable. Sometimes a question is so broad that it would be impossible to answer. For example, can better use of teaching assistants for 2 terms help our vulnerable students access learning, make better progress, and reach their potential? In this example, the change in practice is unclear. There are lots of ways teaching assistants can be deployed effectively, and this question doesn't tell us which approach will be used. The outcome, as currently described, are poorly defined, and one of the outcomes is impossible to measure, as there is no objective way of determining whether a student has reached their potential. You should select one outcome and clearly define it. Think through what you actually want to change. If everything goes to plan, precisely how will things be different for teachers or students? If you are finding defining the outcome hard, try to use the "what do I mean by the outcome" question used in the previous example. It's possible to answer this question. What impact does using teaching assistants to pre-teach key terminology for 2 months have on understanding of key terms for students with specified special educational needs? Issue 3. More than one outcome is included. In this example, 3 outcomes are included in the same question. What impact does using modelling during the unit of work on properties of shape have on student self-reported enjoyment of mathematics, student engagement in maths lessons, and understanding of properties of shape for students in Year 7? It will be easier to plan and run your evaluation if you look at only one outcome. Select the outcome which is most important for you and write a question including only that outcome. For example, what impact does using modelling during the unit of work on properties of shape have on student self-reported enjoyment of mathematics for students in Year 7? If you really want to look at more than one outcome, writing separate questions for each outcome will help you plan your evaluation and address all of the outcomes in your conclusions. However, we strongly recommend that, to evaluate the impact of a change in practice, you stick to looking at one outcome only. This will help you to focus and make the evaluation more manageable. Issue 4. The question makes assumptions about the impact of the change of practice. It's also important to write a question that doesn't make assumptions about what the evaluation will find. For example, what impact does the improved understanding of solving equations from the use of a knowledge organiser for one unit of work have on performance on exam questions about solving equations for Year 10 students? This question assumes that knowledge organisers will improve understanding, but we don't yet know whether this is true. It's important to write a neutral question and to be open to the possibility that your evaluation may find that the change in practice didn't improve outcomes as you'd hoped. What impact does the use of a knowledge organiser for one unit of work have on performance in exam questions about solving equations for Year 10 students? It's worth noting that even if the evaluation shows things didn't turn out as expected, that doesn't mean that change in practice is not going to work for a different group of students or in a different context. We've looked here at how to create a clearly defined question to provide a focus for evaluating a change in your teaching practice. There are 4 common pitfalls: a poorly defined outcome, too broad a question, more than one outcome, and questions that make assumptions about impact. Spending time to get your question right from the outset will save you time later, as you'll understand the evidence you need to collect, and it will help you when you come to draw conclusions.